Hi, everybody. Tough times, I know. Some of you are home already, and some of you are at your office. Today, we have a presentation by COPS Monitoring. Those of you that are on this call certainly know that COPS is probably the #1 wholesale monitoring center in the country. And we have today, David Smith is going to be doing the presentation, and he's VP of Development, I think, and business marketing and business development. And he's going to be talking about just that, since that's his topic. I want to remind you that we are having a special presentation tomorrow at 11, is it? Yeah. I think 11 o'clock, where Central Stations, including COPS, is going to be participating in a discussion about what they are doing to ensure continued Central Station operations during this pandemic crisis that we're all experiencing. So I'm going to turn the presentation over to David right now, and if you have questions, you can ask them, write them in, and if we have time, I will unmute you so that maybe we can have a chat, or else I'll just read the questions to him. Okay, so David, you're up.
Well, thank you, Ken. I appreciate that. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, David, I can see your screen on my computer right now.
So you can see the title screen here.
Yes, how your monitoring company may keep you out of court.
Okay, I appreciate that. So, and thank you everybody for taking the time to attend. When Ken and I first spoke about this topic, or what our topic would be, we talked about it for a roundtable at ISC West, and the topic was going to be basically how your monitoring company keeps you out of court. And we were going to talk about, the tools that you could use, a lot of underutilized tools by dealers that they may or may not be using to make sure that their accounts are in working order. But since then, we went back and forth. There was a little bit of communication problem on my part with Ken, and we decided to change the topic to what basically we're going to talk about tomorrow as well, is how we can provide continuation of services. So we thought in today's climate and what's going on today, we'd talk about the #1 reason that your monitoring center can keep you out of court is to keep providing the services no matter what, regardless of the situation. So we'll talk about the steps that we've taken over the years to prepare for emergencies in general, some of the conditions that it can affect ability to provide monitoring, what we've done above and beyond industry standards and why, and what we're doing to protect our staff against infection and provide continuity of services. So what takes a monitoring company out of business? It's not basically what you think. It's not a complete destruction of a monitoring company. It's usually something that we kind of group up in term local conditions. And the most common local condition that can affect monitoring is weather. When we have weather and that affects a monitoring station, it basically does two things. It increases alarm traffic and it complicates staffing. There's some instances like hurricanes and fires that we had out in Arizona, nor'easters we've had in the Northeast, tornadoes, where it's just not safe to send employees to and from work. And when that happens, it can affect a central station's ability to monitor, whether it completely knocks it out from being able to monitor, or whether it affects response times that could matter to somebody when it counts. So, and we've experienced a lot of these, like the tornado that just happened in Nashville 2 weeks ago, completely took out our communications at our Nashville facility. But it doesn't have to be natural things. It doesn't have to be like an earthquake or a tornado or something. It could be something as simple as a guy in a backhoe doing some road construction that digs up all your fiber. When that happens and you don't have any communications in or out of your out of your monitoring station, you're effectively out of business, and that can happen to because of construction or digging. It can happen. I put civil unrest, and when I normally tell people that in person, they kind of smirk. But in 2015, that's exactly what we had in Baltimore that affected our Baltimore site. Is that there were riots around the area, making it unsafe to have dispatchers come to and from work. And now it's public health. It's not just the coronavirus. It's all viruses. It's all illnesses that can permeate their way through a monitoring center. I guess the point here is that there's really no place that you can build a monitoring center that isn't immune to these things or the things that could compromise its ability to dispatch. So what happens? It's simple. I mean, if you have one monitoring center and you completely lose its ability to monitor, the monitoring center is effectively out of business. So, which is why we made the decision many years ago to open up a second site. We thought, okay, we'll open up a second site, and that's going to solve the problem, and it does. It solves the issue with technology. Now I have two places to send alarm signals. If one backhoe digs up my fiber at one site, I can send signals to my other site. But what we found is that it created a challenge with staffing, because now if you've got two sites that are equally sized and equally staffed, and you lose one of them, now you've got 100% of your staff or 50% of your staff handling 100% of your traffic. And as I said before, if it's something like a hurricane or a tornado, it could be more than 100% of your traffic, because typically those things have a tendency to raise alarm traffic as well. So, and this is best case scenario if they were the same size and equally staffed. If one was smaller, like it was when we first started in Arizona, if you lose the bigger one, the smaller one definitely can handle all of the alarm traffic and provide response times. So what we did over the years is we built several, and we found that it wasn't just the redundancy of technology that was important. It was the redundancy and distributed and diversification of staffing. So by not putting 50% or more of your staff in one location, you spread them across all of the locations. If you were to lose one location in the staffing there, all of the other sites can overstaff, and we can usually do that with people that are currently in the site on breaks and immediately counteract the loss of a single site. We could lose two sites before it would affect our response times, and it's not until we lose three sites that we would have to materially change our procedures and staffing to accommodate. So basically, what are we doing when we get to the coronavirus? So that basically helps protect us against the loss of a site because of all the things that we talked about. And then we get to the coronavirus. I mean, nobody predicted something like this, but we feel pretty well protected because we've got employees spread across 6 different sites rather than having the bulk of our employees just in one center. When employees come into our site at all 6 of our sites, we touch-free take temperature upon arrival, make sure that they're healthy, send them right in to wash their hands, make sure that they're not bringing a lot of personal things and in and out of the office to bring contagions in. Continually reinforcing the CDC recommendations, constantly talking to employees, making sure that they're washing their hands, giving them hand sanitizer, washing down their work areas with both chemicals, virus-killing chemicals, and UV wands. So we take a UV wand over all of their workstations as well, and then we also separate the employees, not just at our 6 offices. We're separating within the office. We have enough outfitted workstations at all of our sites for almost 100% growth, which means we have a lot of empty cubicles with computers and telephones on them. So we're able to space the dispatchers out so they're not sitting right next to each other. We're also able to utilize different areas of our office for dispatching. We also have, we restricted weeks right around the time that they canceled or postponed ISC West. we canceled all of our travel and attendance to all of our company events, and that's a common thing now. We're not even having any events. We restricted office visits to only essential vendors, like that maintain our equipment or that keep us running. Every day, several times a day, we have executive level management meetings, video calls with, and I apologize, my video camera's not working today, but calls with our other sites to stay on top of things so we can, so we know what's going on and we can respond quickly and dynamically to any issues that come up and disseminate the information. We're in touch with our state and local authorities for two reasons: to get information from them, three actually, to just maintain our relationship with them through them, so we're top of mind, not an afterthought. And so our employees, in the event that there is a full-blown curfew, not allowing our employees to come to and from work during a curfew, that we're now listed as essential personnel, which would allow us to come and go. We enacted work from home policies for I don't want to say non-essential, but non-dispatching employees. And we have the ability to work from home, dispatchers to work from home in compliance with UL's new guidelines on remote monitoring. And actually, that's it. It's a shortened presentation here, and even with that, all of the things that we do, all of our central stations, none of them are fail-safe completely, which is why you need fantastic contracts from Ken. And I'll do the best I can to answer your questions. We were supposed to have a couple other teammates here with me, but it's just me today, so I'll do what I can to answer your questions.
Let me see if I can come up with a couple of issues here that on the original topic. First of all, what can the central station do to help dealers stay out of litigation, trouble? Let's leave it at that. And what should they be doing? So I'm going to answer that for you. First of all, the dealer, of course, is the one that has the relationship and deals initially, at least, with the customer. They're doing the contract, they're doing the installation, they're doing service, and they are the liaison between the customer and the central station. So there's different levels of in my opinion, central stations, and let's take one that accepts hookups from dealers with no questions asked. So that's the kind of central station you don't want to have anything to do with. And let's go to the other extreme, which maybe in today's day is not so extreme anymore. A central station needs to protect itself, and by protecting itself, it protects the dealer, which is really, again, what this presentation is about, and was the original topic that we were going to deal with. So how does a central station protect itself, and how does it therefore protect the dealer? Well, the first thing is make sure you have, the central station wants to check the dealer on a lot of critical information that the central station is going to have to rely on. Oh, by the way, David, you don't mind me, I don't want to say pontificating, but making this lengthy presentation?
No, not at all.
Okay. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I say something that maybe COPS doesn't do. And Bart, if you want me to unmute you, I can, if you want to participate in this. I didn't notice if there were any other central stations on here. So the first thing I guess the central station wants to make sure of is that the dealer knows who the customer is. And if you think that's a funny issue, it's not. Too many dealers are dealing with customers that they don't even know who the customer is. So we need to figure that out first. So we have to make sure that we've got the right customer. You know, we know who the customer is. That's for starters. Okay. Then the next thing we have is, and cops is good at this. And how do I know? Because cops, I get a lot of calls. Cops told me to call you. I need a contract. I need a monitoring contract. Good. You know why you need a monitoring contract? Because as a dealer, you need a contract, and the central station needs a contract, and the central station is relying on you to get that contract, you, the dealer, to get that contract. So a central station can and should insist on proper contracts. Proper meaning containing all of the essential protective provisions. Okay. So I'll put my camera on. Okay. This is it. The next one is so critical. I can't. I should have made it 1 through 10. Zones. The central station needs to know what zones you've programmed. You need to know what zones you've programmed. You need to test those zones with the central station. You need to make sure that every zone you've programmed is identifiable by the central station so that they know that it's the living room that was that window that's opened, that it's a burglar alarm signal, that it's a smoke signal and the smoke is in the kitchen or the smoke is in a bedroom. They need to know, maybe it's a temperature control, maybe it's fire, maybe it's bird. They need to know when they get that signal. So the programming is done by the dealer, and you have to make sure that not only you programmed it right, but you've let the central station know each of the zones. They have to be identified, okay? So let's say now you've got that done. Now a central station can require testing if it wants to. I'm not saying it does or should, but it could. It could say, listen, we require all of our systems, all subscriber systems to be tested. We want to know you've gone out there and looked at it and tested it. Now, I could see a dealer saying to the central station, I don't have to do that. I don't do it. I'm not going to do it. But guess what? If the central station even suggests that to the dealer, they're doing that dealer a great favor. They're helping that dealer both from a business standpoint and a risk reduction standpoint. So yes, they should do it. Whether they say to a dealer, listen, if you don't give us a proof of 90% compliance, we're canceling you as a dealer. I'm not saying they go that far, but best practices would dictate that the central suggest it to the dealer. Understand that the dealers look to the central stations for a lot of information. Definitely more than they should, quite honestly. They look to them for accounting information, technical information on installation work, which central stations don't do. With legal, I can't even tell you. That's the first call, not to me, to the central station. That's who they're asking legal advice. Contracts, give me a contract. They're asking the central station, not me. So the central station is the focal point for many dealers for lots of different advice and information. Okay, why? Well, maybe the central station is the largest industry contact that most dealers have. Okay, you can't get too, okay, they're not selling equipment, so it's not ADI or something like that, but an equipment distributor. And they're not even a manufacturer of equipment where you can get some information specific to that manufacturer. But they're the focal point for an awful lot of information for a lot of dealers. Okay. Central stations should be sharing their procedures. And by procedures, I mean how they respond to every signal that they are capable of getting. So if you're a dealer and you can program, or typically program, in 5 different types of signals, you need to make sure that you know how the central station operators have been trained to
it's on my phone.
respond to these signals. So you need to know, how do you respond to a burglar alarm signal, to a panic alarm signal, to a fire alarm, smoke or heat, water flow, temperature variation. So each one of these types of signals, that a trouble signal, okay, loss of electric, loss of communication, you fail to test. You need to know, how is the central going to respond? Who are they going to call? They're going to call the alarm company, they're going to call the customer direct. You need to know, and you should be passing this information on to your customers so that they understand. And now I know a lot of guys, well, especially years ago, I don't know about so much today, but I know years ago, the thought of a dealer telling the customer that, oh, I don't do the monitoring, I give that out to somebody else. No, they never wanted anyone to know that. Well, I don't know. I think that the door's open and it can't close anymore. I think most customers know that it's not the dealer that's doing the monitoring, but a nationwide central station. And quite honestly, it shouldn't take a dealer more than 10 seconds to figure out how to sell that and promote that as a positive, rather than as any kind of negative that a customer could conceive of. So you want to be able to have all of the procedures, and the customers know about it. Verification. You need to know, a dealer needs to know, what verification process and procedures the central station goes through. Maybe none, or maybe they're going to comply with, of course, this dealer is in a particular jurisdiction. Verification requirements are different throughout the country. Some electronic call verification, ECV. Some now you got these Sandy Springs in Georgia. You got video verification. There might be audio verification. There might be runner service requirements in some jurisdictions. What's the central station doing? Dealers, if you're using my contracts, there's a separate line item to charge for verification service, which may be required in the jurisdiction, may not, but likely being performed by the central station anyway, required or not. Most central stations, I would think, and David, maybe I don't know if you know, I'm sure COPS, I would have guessed that COPS has a verification process just about every jurisdiction. Would you say so?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so there's that. So there are everything that I've just mentioned, and I'm sure other things, what I'll call best practices that a dealer should be adhering to, engaging in, conceiving, operating under. Best practices. Because the central station is a focal point, or maybe the first call for information that a dealer might make, the central station can serve a vital function for dealers on their best practices for operating efficiently, meaning staying out of trouble. Staying out of trouble means not getting sued. So this is what the central station can be helping with. Okay, I'm not even going to go to a central station as the operator is the one who's actually talking to your customers during a time of, I'm not going to call it crisis compared to what we're undergoing at the moment, but under a time of trouble or you know, the signals are going off, and it's the operator that's talking to the customer, your customer, if you're the dealer. I know that operators are not going to be engaging in too much conversation, and by the way, they shouldn't engage in conversation. They should have a script basically on how to handle the different types of signals that they get, and they should stick to it because that's a problem for central stations when an operator goes off script and runs it. That's how problems arise at the central station level. So one of the reasons that I have the opinion that I have, and some of which is expressed here, is that when we defend lawsuits, guess what we get? We get not only missed signals or signals that come in but can't be identified. We have zones that can't be identified, zones that are mislabeled, so that a fire alarm came in, but it's responded to as a burglar alarm, and vice versa. So that these are what we see in a lawsuit. Okay, most people don't sue alarm companies when the alarm really worked completely as it was supposed to. Okay, there's plenty of those going on, and we don't see lawsuits very often. Sometimes, but that's normally there's some problem, and that's when we see the lawsuit. So what we're saying is that the central state, an active central station that is aware of all of these issues, that conveys this information to the dealer, is doing a better job, a better function, a better industry purpose than a central station that does nothing other than maybe answer some calls and answer signals, I mean. Now, I'm going to assure you that COPS is at the highest level of this type of scrutiny of its dealers and providing the proper best practices advice. As simple as that. And there's other central stations. A lot of central stations do, and a lot of them are on the alarm exchange, which is why they're on the alarm exchange. So that's really what we wanted to say to you today. And David, after giving this presentation, I should say I'm available for future webinars, paid webinars by COPS. Okay, folks. So I don't see any questions. I'm going to thank you, and maybe we'll see you all tomorrow, or maybe not. David really covered a lot of what we're going to cover tomorrow. Maybe we're going to hear from some different central stations tomorrow. And I want to thank you all and tell you stay safe. David, any closing remarks?
No, just thank you very much, and thank you everybody for attending.
Okay, take care, everybody.